9 years ago, my older brother looked me dead in the eye across our family's kitchen and said, "You cook like a line cook at a gas station. You're an embarrassment to everything this restaurant stands for." Then he laughed, actually laughed, like it was the funniest thing he'd ever said. My father was standing 3 feet away. He didn't say a word, just turned back to his prep station and kept slicing. That was the night I understood that silence can be crueler than anything said out loud. 2 hours later, my father sat me down at the corner table, the one we always reserved for VIPs, and told me he was removing me from the business. Not firing me, he was careful not to use that word. Transitioning you out. The restaurant had been in our family for 22 years. My grandmother had opened it with $40,000 she'd saved working double shifts at a hotel laundry. My father had grown it into 2 locations. My brother was being groomed for a 3rd. And I, who had worked there since I was 14, who had memorized every recipe in my grandmother's handwritten notebook, who had spent 2 summers staging at restaurants in Charleston just to get better, was being quietly removed because, according to my father, I didn't project the right image for where the brand was going. I asked him what that meant. He looked at the table instead of at me. Customers connect with confidence, with presence. You're too quiet, too in your head. Marcus has the personality for this. You don't. I was 26 years old. I had just been told I wasn't enough. Not by a stranger, not by a critic, by my own father in my grandmother's restaurant. I drove home in the rain. I didn't cry until I got inside. My phone buzzed around midnight. My aunt, my father's older sister, the one the rest of the family called too blunt because she said what everyone else only thought, had somehow already heard. She called from her house in Asheville. "Don't you dare disappear," she said before I could even say hello. "You come here first. Before you make any decisions, you come here." I told her I was fine. "You are not fine. And that's okay. But don't make a permanent decision tonight. Drive up tomorrow. I've got the guest room made up." I stayed with her for a week. On the 3rd morning, she set coffee in front of me and a folded check beside it. $12,000. I pushed it back across the table. She pushed it forward again. "It's not charity. It's leverage. Your grandmother left me money that your father doesn't know about because your grandmother was a smart woman who understood that his ego was always going to be a problem." She folded her hands around her mug. "She wanted it used for someone in this family who actually deserved a real shot. That's you." I didn't have the words for it. I still don't, completely. "There's one condition," she said. "You don't tell your father where it came from, not because I'm afraid of him. Because I want you focused on building, not on fighting." I took the check. A week later, I loaded my car and drove to Portland, Oregon. I chose it because I didn't know anyone there, which felt, at the time, like the only kind of freedom I could actually afford. The first year was the kind of hard, you don't talk about at dinner parties. I got a line cook position at a mid-range Italian place on the east side. 6 nights a week, close to midnight most of them, shoes soaked through from the dish pit spray. My apartment was 480 square feet, with a bathroom where the sink and the shower shared the same drain practically. I kept a notebook on the counter, my grandmother's recipes, plus everything new I was learning, plus ideas I didn't have the equipment or the budget to try yet. I enrolled in the one culinary business course offered online through Portland State. Tuesday nights, laptop balanced on a cutting board because my kitchen table was also my desk. I learned food cost ratios, lease negotiation, health code compliance, supplier relationships, things my father had never bothered to teach me because he'd never planned on me needing to know them. By year 2, I was sous chef. By year 3, I had enough saved, plus the $12,000, untouched, grown slightly in a basic investment account my aunt had helped me open, to start thinking about something real. I started small. A pop-up out of a rented commercial kitchen on Saturday mornings. Southern food, the kind my grandmother made, but cleaner, better sourced. Collard greens braised in smoked turkey instead of pork so they'd work for more people. Biscuits with local cultured butter. A fried chicken sandwich that a food blogger stumbled onto in month 3 and described as the best thing I've eaten in Portland this year, and possibly longer. That post changed everything. Within 6 weeks, I had a wait list for the pop-up. Within 4 months, a local investor, a woman who owned 3 other food concepts in the city, sat across from me at a coffee shop and asked what I needed to go permanent. I told her. She wrote the number on a napkin, signed it like it was a contract, and said, "Let's make it real." Quill opened in the Pearl District 18 months later. 42 seats, an open kitchen, a menu that changed with the season but always came back to the same grandmother-taught foundations. The name was my aunt's idea. Because your grandmother wrote everything down. Because you've been writing things down your whole life. Because the pen is how your family actually passes things on, even when they don't realize it. The first review landed on a Wednesday. Portland Monthly. 4 stars. The critic wrote that Quill felt like a Sunday dinner at someone's grandmother's house, except the grandmother trained in a Michelin kitchen. I read that line 3 times. Then I called my aunt and read it to her over the phone. She didn't say anything for a moment. "Your grandmother would have framed that," she finally said. "I know." "Frame it." I did. Year 5, we made Portland's best new restaurants list. Year 6, I hired a full front-of-house team and stopped working the line every single night. Year 7, the James Beard Foundation included Quill on their list of semi-finalists for Best New Restaurant Pacific Northwest. We didn't win. But the nomination landed in every food publication that mattered. I never contacted my family during those years. Not my father, not my brother. I sent my aunt updates, a photo of the first Quill menu, a screenshot of the Beard nomination, a picture of the framed review on the wall. She always wrote back within minutes. Sometimes just a row of exclamation marks. Sometimes a voice memo of her laughing. She never told them anything. I never asked her to. The invitation came on a Thursday in March, a thick envelope, ivory cardstock, gold foil on the return address. My brother's name, and a woman's name I didn't recognize, Cecilia Voss, the 3rd location of my father's restaurant, the one my brother had been building toward for the last 4 years, was having its grand opening gala. Black tie, paired tasting menu, all the local press, all the investors, everyone who mattered in the regional dining scene. They'd sent it to my Portland address. I stood in my entryway for a long time holding it. There was no personal note, no acknowledgement of the 9 years. No "I hope you're well" scrawled in the margin. Just the standard card, the RSVP envelope, and the date, a Saturday, 6 weeks away. I thought about throwing it away. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat with it at my kitchen table for an hour. Then I called my aunt. "They sent me an invitation to the 3rd location opening," I said. Silence. Then, "Did they?" No note. Just the card. Another pause. "Are you going?" I looked at the envelope on the table. "I think I am." She didn't say anything for 3 full seconds. Then I heard her exhale slowly. "Then you go dressed like exactly who you are now, and you don't apologize for a single inch of it. I didn't bring anything to that gala that wasn't mine. The black crepe blazer I'd had made by a tailor in Southeast Portland, the silk blouse in deep burgundy, the trousers that fit like they were built for me because they were, the shoes I'd bought the month the James Beard nomination came through, kept in the box until the right night. Every piece was deliberate. All of it mine. I flew into PDX to SEA. My father had moved the 3rd location to Seattle, new market, new money, and took a car to the venue, a converted waterfront warehouse in SoDo that reeked of expensive renovation. I could see the lights from a block away. I could hear the string quartet. The woman at the guest list looked at my name, looked at me, looked back at her list. A small pause. Then she smiled with her mouth only and said, "Of course. Right this way." I walked into the room. It was everything my father had always wanted it to be. 40-foot ceilings, exposed brick cleaned to a soft gray, pendant lighting that cost more per fixture than some people's rent. The tasting menu cards on each table were printed on the same heavy ivory stock as the invitation. Staff in matching aprons moved through the crowd with controlled precision. Press photographers at the edges of the room. My brother was at the center of it all, arm around a woman in champagne silk. Cecilia, I assumed, the fiancé. He was wearing a midnight blue suit, hair shorter than I remembered. The particular kind of relaxed confidence that comes from never having had to rebuild anything. I walked toward him. He saw me from 15 feet away. I watched his face in real time. The professional smile he'd been holding for 2 hours flickered, dropped, rebuilt itself slightly wrong. His arm loosened from Cecilia's waist. She noticed and turned to follow his line of sight. I stopped in front of them. "Congratulations on the opening," I said. "The room looks beautiful." My brother said nothing. He just looked at me like I was a math problem he couldn't solve. Cecilia looked between us with polite confusion. "Thank you so much." "I'm sorry, have you two met?" Before he could answer, I heard the sound of my father's voice cutting off mid-sentence somewhere behind me. I didn't turn around. I heard the specific silence that follows when someone stops talking. Not because they've finished, but because something has stopped them. Then I heard his footsteps. He appeared at my side and stopped. His face. I'd been preparing myself to see it for 6 weeks, and it still landed like a physical thing. He'd aged. The gray at his temples had taken over. The confidence that used to fill every room he walked into had a thinness to it now, like a coat worn 1 season too many. "Camille," he said. My name, in his voice, after 9 years. It didn't sound like an apology. It sounded like a question he didn't know how to finish. I looked at him, didn't move, didn't speak first. I let him stand in it. "How did," he started. "You sent me an invitation," I said. Cecilia's smile had gone uncertain. She was doing the social math in real time, the way people do at family events when they walk into something with history they haven't been briefed on. She touched my brother's arm. He still hadn't spoken. A man appeared from the far side of the room. Tall, silver-haired, the particular self-possession of old Pacific Northwest money. He was looking at me with the focused attention of someone who's recognized something he wasn't expecting to see. He said something low to the man beside him and started moving toward us with purpose. That was Gordon Voss, Cecilia's father, the primary investor behind the 3rd location, and, as of 8 months ago, the lead backer of a regional food group that had been publicly circling Quill for acquisition conversations. He knew exactly who I was. He reached us and didn't look at my father or my brother. He looked at me. "I didn't realize," he said, measured, "that you were connected to this family." "We haven't been," I said. "For about 9 years. His jaw shifted. He glanced at my father. Something passed between them. Not warmth. "Gordon," my father started, the smooth, professional voice, the one for people who controlled money. "This is my daughter, Camille. She's been living out west. She's got a small. She has Quill," Gordon said. Flat. Final. Which is not small. Which was on my acquisition list 18 months ago until the owner declined 3 separate offers. He looked at me. "That was you?" "That was me," I said. My father went very still. Gordon Voss slipped between us for a moment. The muscle in his jaw moved once. Then he said very quietly, "Richard, we need to talk about what you disclosed in the partnership agreement." He wasn't asking. My father's face lost something. The color didn't drain so much as recede, slowly, like a tide going out. Cecilia touched my brother's arm again, harder this time. "Can someone please tell me what's happening?" My brother finally found his voice. It came out smaller than I remembered it. "That's my sister." "Your sister," Cecilia repeated. "We haven't, it's complicated. You told me you didn't have a sister." The string quartet kept playing. Around us the gala continued, the way events do when something private detonates in a corner. Most people hadn't noticed. A few had. The photographer had definitely noticed. I took 1 step back. Just enough to create space. I didn't want to be in the frame for what was coming. Gordon Voss put his hand on my father's shoulder, not warm, directive, and steered him toward a corridor off the main room. My father went without resistance. I watched him go. My brother looked at me. For the first time since I'd walked in, he actually looked at me. Not through me, not past me. At me. "Camille?" He stopped, started again. "I didn't think you'd actually come. You sent the invitation." "Dad sent the invitation. I didn't know until it was already." He stopped again. His fiancée was watching him with an expression I recognized. The particular focus of a woman recalibrating everything she thought she knew. "I didn't know he put you on the list." I believed him. That was the worst part almost. Believing him. "You knew what he did," I said. Not accusatory. Just the fact of it. He looked at the floor. "Yeah." And you didn't say anything. He didn't answer. Which was its own answer. I looked at Cecilia. She'd gone still in that way people do when they're recording everything. I'm sorry we're meeting like this, I said, and meant it. That's not on you. She shook her head slightly, eyes still somewhere between confused and shattered. I pulled my phone from my jacket pocket and did the one thing I'd planned since booking the flight. I sent my aunt a text. 3 words, I'm inside. Good. Her reply came back in under 30 seconds, standing by. Go get him. I put the phone away. Gordon Voss reappeared from the corridor without my father. His publicist materialized at his elbow. He spoke briefly to her. She nodded twice and moved off toward the press corner of the room, and then Gordon turned and walked straight back to me. I owe you an apology, he said, for what my investment in this family apparently funded without my knowledge. He was precise about it, not emotional, just accurate. I've been presented tonight with documentation my partner failed to disclose during due diligence, a legal matter involving the circumstances under which a family member, you, was removed from the original business 9 years ago, and some financial arrangements that my attorneys are going to find very interesting. He didn't ask me a question. He was making sure I understood what was about to happen. I appreciate you telling me, I said. He nodded once. Your restaurant has a strong reputation. If you ever reconsider outside partnership, I'd want that conversation to happen differently than it did before. He extended his hand. I shook it. Then he walked back toward the room and picked up a champagne glass like nothing had happened, the way men like Gordon Voss always do. I found a quiet spot near the windows that overlooked the water. The lights of the port were moving in the dark. I stood there for a few minutes and didn't perform anything for anyone. My father came out of the corridor eventually. He didn't approach me. He stood on the other side of the room with a drink he wasn't touching and looked like a man who had just spent an hour realizing that the walls he'd built around himself had doors he didn't know about. By the following Monday morning, the news had moved. Gordon Voss issued a statement withdrawing from the partnership agreement, citing undisclosed material information. His legal team filed a fraud claim by Wednesday. The bank that had extended the construction loan on the 3rd location put the account under review by Thursday. The building, still technically a lease, not owned, went quiet. The staff hadn't been paid for the week. My brother called me on Tuesday. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message that lasted 4 minutes and 40 seconds. I listened to it once. He said he was sorry. He said he'd known it was wrong. He said he hadn't known how to stop it. He said a lot of things that were probably true and also 9 years too late. I didn't call him back. Not that week. My father didn't call. My aunt texted me on Wednesday. Your grandmother's recipe notebook. I have it. She left it with me. Didn't trust your father to keep it safe. Told me to give it to whoever needed it most. I think we both know. I called her immediately. She picked up on the first ring. Tell me you kept it somewhere good, I said. Fireproof box. Guest room closet. Has been for 11 years. I laughed. Really laughed. The way you do when something is funny and also exactly right. I'll drive up next weekend, I said. I'll make coffee, she said. I'll make coffee, she said. The real kind. None of that pod machine garbage, obviously. She hung up without saying goodbye. She always does. I went back to Portland on the Thursday flight, slept through most of it. When the plane banked over the coast and I could see the city laid out in the early evening light, I felt something settle. Not triumphant, exactly. More like a door finally closing on a draft that had been running through the house for years. The notebook is on my kitchen counter now. My grandmother's handwriting, small and slanted, recipes that don't have measurements so much as instructions written for someone who already knows how to cook. Season until it smells right. Cook it until your gut says stop. Taste everything twice. I've been adding my own pages in the back. New recipes, margin notes, things I want to remember. The first time I used her biscuit recipe at Quill, not a copy of it, my version, the one that took 2 years to get right. A woman stopped me on her way out and said it tasted like something she'd had at her grandmother's house once and never found again anywhere. I told her I understood exactly what she meant. That's what the 9 years gave me. Not just the restaurant, not just the reviews, not just Gordon Voss's business card sitting in my jacket pocket. It gave me enough time and distance to understand what was worth keeping and what I was better off building from scratch. My grandmother knew. She always had. She just needed someone in the family willing to do the work to find out.